Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. We had to bring him back. We messed up on his video accidentally. Great conversation, but we got to take accountability. And it was our fault. The video, I think, the content was good, which we're going to talk about. The content was good.
Yes.
But I had to have him come back because, you know what, it's like I said, it's about taking that accountability. When I talked to him and said, hey, man, look, we screwed up, you know, and he was like, Trey, the conversation was good. just let it go. Just let it go. I said, okay, we'll let it go, but we got to have you come back. And we're glad that he came back, and sitting beside me is the one, the only Indiana's own King Zig. What's up, big guy?
What's going on, Dre? Good to see you again.
Yeah. I messed up on your video. Let me first say I'm sorry. In person.
It's all good. Things happen. I've messed up before.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're an artist. Artists messed up. You know what I mean? They mess up all the time.
Yeah, let's just blame it on being an artist. That's what it is.
So what's been going on with you since? You when you walked in, you said you're doing all kind of exciting things. It's 5 o'clock in your world.
Yeah, well, I saw some of the nice looking bourbons that you had in here.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know I turned it down last time.
But you're gonna try one today.
I mean, if it's okay with you,
It's
I don't want
always
to. I don't.
okay.
You know, nothing worse than a person that just invites their self to
You
a
know
party,
what?
right?
I just check this out. It's funny you said that. I'm not gonna mention the person's name, but this just happened literally last week. Somebody came in unannounced and was like, "Hey, Dre, I need to have you do me a favor." I'm like, "Yeah," and they went straight to the bourbon.
Oh wow, that's
Right to the maker's mark, and just
in addition to the favor, unannounced.
Yeah, unannounced.
Sometimes you got to put all that, like everything, into perspective.
Then somebody popped in last night, you know, boom, 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 knocking on the door, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to work, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking maybe it's one of my buddies, you know what I mean? Usually when somebody trying to knock hard, it's one of your buddies playing games on you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what you hope, right?
Somebody else, hey, Dre, what's up? I was like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? They looking straight at the liquor cabinet.
What? Yo, that's crazy because I'm not a big drinker, but it's one of those things where, like, if it's offered to me, I guess.
Yeah.
But like I did last time, I turned it down. So
It's here. That's what it's here for. That's why I go to Lexington and to get that good bourbon and that good whiskey.
You know what it is? It's like you were so energetic about it the first time. You were like, hey, you want a drink? And I was like, it's early. And I didn't want you to think like I just never had any fun, which I guess I don't know how a person would get that from talking to me. But
yeah.
I don't know. I just wanted to put it out there like, I partake.
Okay. So
maybe that's my problem.
so what's been going on with you now? You know, last couple months.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to shout out my son and my family. Because first of all, my son just getting older every day. He's not even 2 years old yet. But I'm really excited about everything he's got going on. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, before we get into everything else, just like the beauty of being a dad and the opportunity I have each day, to just be that influence in somebody's life. I caught myself talking to my grandma earlier today, and I was like, dang, I really want to be the change in the world and whoop-de-woo.
Yeah.
And I was like, but my son's right here every day, and that's somebody I can influence every single day.
He's 2 now. What was that like for
Almost 2. He's going to be 2 in February.
What was that like for you when he was born to 1 year old, now going on 2, knowing your situation and what you went through? Like, what's that
I feel
like
like a
you?
completely different man. Like, and I could say that probably if you go 2-year increments, like from the time I was like 20 to like now, really, or even early, probably like 14. Really, it's crazy how and now that was another thing I was telling my grandma was like, humans are amazing. Like, you know what I mean? When you think about how much growth we make in such a short amount of time, like, put in perspective. I love doing this, right? Put into perspective how long they say the earth has been around, 13 billion years or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you think about we only live to be like at the most like 120.
Yeah.
Out of those, how many billion?
That.
So we're barely blinking like in one, like if it was a movie long, like we're blinking one time. And that's like how long we've been here. And so like when you put that into perspective, one, it makes me believe in God. Like science makes me believe in God because it's like, you just expect me to believe this is all coincidence. You know what I mean? And then 2, it's just like really helps you kind of mentally. It's like, dang, like that mentally that helps me. Like we're doing a lot in this short amount of time.
What do you mean when you say it helps you?
You got to put
mentally?
everything into perspective. Like I think I talked about that last interview, is like we get caught up in our lives so much to where it's hard to like really see the bigger picture. And so that's a big picture that helps me mentally, is like when I think I'm 28 and I'm not where I want to be yet, and dang, like there's people my age that have this, that, and the third, and I could be there too. Mm-hmm. But it's like, yo, like, come on. Like we're barely here in the grand scheme of things. And you have to be proud of what you've accomplished in this short amount of time that we have been given.
What's the difference for you with a son? That you mentioned several key things, that time is short.
To put that in perspective, I want to do a better job of answering your questions too. I thought there was like a couple of times where Jessica and yourself asked me a question, and I spoke on the topic, but I was
Jessica was supposed to be here. She was running late, so she got to catch us next time.
No worries. But anyway, so it's the last 2 years since I've been a father. Like when he was born, like I was still kind of caught up in my younger ways of just like, I didn't understand the gravity of everything quite yet. I still don't really think I understand. Like he's still got to grow up to be, a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 20-year-old like me. So it's like, each stage of life you start to understand more gravity of the situation. And so that is definitely what happened in the last 2 years. Like he was 0 years old and he was just born, and it was like, boom. You're out there, you're a dad, like, let's go. So like just hit the ground running. We got to make sure we got diapers. We got to, make sure there's food on the table. Mm-hmm. This kid's got to eat. You know what I mean? What
was your life like? What was your life like before that? You mentioned.
Oh man, I was just by myself. Like you when you are a young man and you are not at your parents' house, like I wasn't, you're on your own. And so, it's different when you add a kid and a woman to that equation, right? So it's not just you anymore, right?
Was the woman there prior to having the child?
Briefly, yeah. Not to put my whole business out there, we had dated previously for a short amount of time. And she got pregnant, and then we stayed together up until he was about 9 months old, and then we stopped dating. But yeah, that being said, like I said, the biggest thing that I learned and that was told to me going into the situation was your actions don't affect just you anymore, and that was the biggest thing. Right?
Hold that thought. That's a good thing. And I think we know what the topic is today about fatherhood. Your life has changed. But let's go back a minute. The things that you do does affect others. It's that ripple effect. So what were some of the things that you might have done that you now look back and go, wow, if I don't change this trajectory about this, that, and the other, it's gonna really affect my son and my baby's mom.
You're saying what would I have changed?
Yeah.
That's really hard to tell at this point. He's not even 2 years old, and it's I've been going through a lot of like, if things were different, like it wouldn't be the way it is now. And I'm like, obviously you're never fully satisfied with everything, but for my son and myself, like with the circumstance that we were given, and his mother for that regard, I'm happy with where things went, because we're all in a good situation, to at least be able to progress, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be up to us individually, right? Myself, his mother, and my son when it's his time, but it's the circumstances we were given, I'm happy with the way things went. I think, maybe getting rid of the cat sooner. That was one thing.
The cat.
On a lighter hearted note, having a cat around a baby's tough. It was nice, in the winter where we live, there's a couple mice here and there. So it's nice to like kind of weed out the mice like early and just get rid of the problem.
You live in a house or you live in an apartment?
In a house, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say I don't know of any apartments that will have mice.
No. It's a house. It's a house. And it's a duplex. So, it's nice. It's on the Near East Side. But yeah, there are mice in the winter, and that's when they come out at night. And, the cat would get rid of the mice, but I think, just like having the hair everywhere was tough. I think also stressing about her breastfeeding was like, there's so much pressure for moms to breastfeed.
Really?
And it's also so much pressure on men to not speak on it. But like as fathers, we go through the same things vicariously as our partners do, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So like for me, it was tough to like watch her go through the pressures of like having to see social media and everybody saying breast is best and stressing how important it is for the bond for the mother and everything. And it was like,
what was your role with her where she was going through this? Did she feel confident enough to confide in you? Because you're both young.
I think that was tough. Like it's tough for any girl to confide in a young man these days, especially one like me who's not a college graduate. I'm renting a duplex on the Near East Side, and I'm just making it happen. You know what I mean? So you kind of just gotta.
Why would you not being a college grad have anything to do with the way?
It's all about the image, Dre. You got to think of like with people my age, that stuff matters so much.
But she knew that when she got with you, right?
Yeah, she definitely did. I think she confided in me for the most part, and she had no choice but to confide in me. I mean, I kept a roof over her house and or a roof over her head and food on the table. But those are basic things, I think for us, like the relationship was tough because there was an insecurity there, and I don't think I really knew how to give her that reassurance. And I think that was the common theme of like, it was tough to just stay committed to building with a person that just didn't trust you from the jump, and so that in turn made me not trust her because, and come to find out, later, that's kind of how things go, right? It's like when somebody is very insecure to the point where they're constantly interrogating you, constantly going through your phone and not believing what you're telling them, then they are usually the one that's doing it.
Did you guys give each other reasons for having the insecurity, or was it something that developed from trauma?
It was something that developed from trauma. I don't like going back and forth about it because, it's very. I never cheated on that girl. I never was talking to another girl like that, entertaining anything when I was with her. I might have made one inappropriate joke with a girl that I did a music video with about a post she made. And I realized that when I got my phone checked, that conversation wouldn't go over well. And so I kind of just wanted to avoid it. And I deleted that message and the you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it was on Snapchat anyway. You don't have to delete the whole conversation. It deletes anyway. And so it's just, again, just a big, like, why do you feel the need you have to check my phone all the time? I'm not cheating on you. I'm not entertaining any other girls. So the fact that I feel like I need to, like, go behind myself and, let you know, like, that was where it was tough for me to give it. There's two sides to every story. Mm-hmm. And I felt like we both were making valid points towards, like, the struggle that a woman has in a relationship, struggle that a man has in a relationship. The valid arguments
what struggles do men have? This is curious. You brought this up. What struggles do we have based on your insight?
I struggled having to give her that reassurance all the time. In my eyes, that was like, why don't you trust me? Why do I constantly have to reassure you that you're the most beautiful girl in my eyes and that I don't want anybody else? You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to continue to reassure you that.
When you say that, what does she say?
And so I would try to say it all type of different ways. You know, you can't just say the same thing over and over and expect it to keep working. But, you know, after you say something so many times, in however many different ways you say it, it starts to lose the effect. And again, I start to ask questions. Why do you need this reassurance so much? And I start to realize it's because she's not assured in herself. And so
is she a college grad?
No.
High school?
No, she did not graduate high school.
So there could be underlying issues with self-esteem, trauma, childhood trauma, probably going into, she's in her 20s, probably peer pressure. And I know it may sound kind of crazy, but I'm not a therapist. I'm just going by what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you really do this without professional help? And my hat's off to you. And then what I mean by this is, I know your story from last time. I know you're trying to let me rephrase this. You're going to make a difference in your son's life. You're going to make a difference in your relationship. And I can tell by the way that you're talking, but do you think you can navigate this ship alone? Even though she's a partner with you, do you think that men should reach out to therapists to ask those questions? Because you just said, hey, I've said 50 times, you're the woman of my life. You're this, that, and another.
Just to reiterate, we're not together anymore, and we haven't been for over a year. And I have a new girlfriend now, and things are not that way anymore. You know, so things are a lot different now. You know,
what's the difference?
There's no insecurity there. You know, we trust each other enough to know that, like, we are the one for each other. You know, and I think that really, it's more of a motivation to be loyal. It's like more of I want to be loyal to every girl that I'm with. Don't get me wrong. But a woman that is secure and knows, like, you know, just like think about it, put yourself in a man's shoes, right? My dad always taught me, if another man could take a woman away from me, she was never mine to begin with.
You need to say that again, because I say that all the time.
And so do you think if women had that same attitude, they would be so insecure?
Right.
No, the answer is no. And so that's attractive when a woman has that quality of being secure and knowing that, hey, even if this guy does cheat on me, he's losing the best thing in his life. You know what I mean? And I know that God's got me and karma's got me, the universe got me enough to take care of me regardless of what happens. You know what I mean?
But you guys have a child together. It's your first child, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how does, you have to sit down and talk with her, because I know you're the type of person, when you guys separated and you address these things with her, for the sake of your child, what was her response? That you was going to walk away from the relationship and not walk away from your child? Because a lot of times women use a child as
I mean, you know, there was, man, bruh, we peeling back a lot of layers right now. You know,
I tell you, smell the onions.
Yeah, nah, for real. We'll just put it like this: it was an addiction. She was going through addiction. I'll just leave it like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There had been ever since we started dating, you know, of trying to get her clean. And then, you know, that was really what was the reason why we're not together anymore. You know, so, and I just would like to leave it at that.
Okay.
You know, just be out of respect for her and my son and myself, really. Yeah. Just because, you know, that's our business. And I actually didn't expect to talk about that today. So that's interesting. But, you know,
but how do you change the narrative, knowing that you gave all you could based on her situation, based on what you were trying? But the bottom line, you got a kid here.
Like I said, you know, I think for myself and my son and for her, we're all in a situation now where we have access to that professional help now.
Okay.
You know, we realize that it's probably not the best that we're together. And that was something I was really scared of, Dre. I was really scared and beating myself up about the fact that my parents weren't together growing up, you know, and I did not want that for my son. And so that was really stressful and really hard for me. But I had to forgive myself for the simple fact that I knew things would be better for my son if we weren't together, you know? And so, again, this is a lot of conversation that I've had with my family, who went through it too, right?
What did they say about it?
The same thing I just told you, which is just, again, you have to do what's best for the children. And that's the point that a lot of people miss. It's like, yes, we want to make this work. Everybody wants to make it work. Some people want to break up. You know what I mean? Sometimes the best thing isn't for the parents to break up. I think as a society, we've also gotten hung up and addicted on this narrative, like we just need to kick each other to the curb every situation. Yeah. No, in every situation, we should not be kicking each other to the curb when we have kids together.
Right.
We lay down, it takes two to tango. Everybody's situation is different. Sometimes you lay down with somebody for one night.
And all hell breaks loose.
So, at the end of the day, it's all about what's best for the children. Again, like I said, and that's why I brought up being a father in the beginning, because that's what I want to remember. It's like in the beginning, there was nothing. It was just the father. You know what I mean? So, and that's just what I believe. But I mean,
what are you most afraid of about being a father? Knowing the situation, you got a new girlfriend, but knowing the situation that your baby's mom is still trying to get her life in order. Let's get real. You're trying to get your life in order. You're only 28 years old.
My biggest fear about being a father is seeing my son give up or like similar actions. Because I think if nothing else, like if I just see him like continue to have that thirst for life and just always, like that's my biggest fear. Like when I think of everything wrong that could happen, it's like, dang, like I just don't want this kid to be like out on the street, like hopeless, like I don't know what to do, addicted to drugs or dealing with something like that. You know what I mean? Because we deal with enough in life already. He's going to deal with rejection. He's going to deal with breakups. He's going to deal with death in the family. He's going to deal with failure. We deal with so much. And so seeing like addiction, I think that is like really one of my biggest fears is like watching him go through addiction. It's like, man, like I don't want that for him. I don't. And it's not to say I'm going to be like, no, like, people are going to self-medicate and they're going to experiment. It's just what happens, period. And for us to sit here and act like we could just raise these perfect little kids that aren't going to try anything, it's just ridiculous to me.
It's naive.
I'm not saying go out and try crack, but it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you expect your kids to just go to college and not smoke any weed or not drink any alcohol.
You're delusional.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't want to be delusional about his future. And I think that's what's going to be, because I've watched the previous generations fight the war on drugs and, do it that way and try to be super strict. And, we had to take a skills and drugs class, which the concept of it was great. But what they used to tell us was crazy.
What did they tell you?
They used to tell us
this is your brain on drugs?
Yeah, like stuff like that, like 2 joints of marijuana was worse than 1 cigarette. And they used to play us this video called The Boy Who Got Swallowed by the Drug Monster. And how he used to eat pieces of paper and he was like floating above his bed and like poking butterflies and stuff. And it was just like,
I never saw that
one. But, it's just, again, it's when kids are faced with that type of, thing in life, you don't want them to be freaked out about it. It's like, obviously, like I said, you don't want your kids to do crack. You don't want them to try meth. You don't want them to try something that can hurt them or injure them permanently, obviously. And you want them to be safe. I mean, they're doing all type of crazy stuff. They're putting, date rape, drugs, and alcohol, and they're lacing all type of stuff, and there's synthetic weed that'll mess you up. So you got to watch yourself. But, at the same time, what I don't want to do is act like that stuff's not out there, act like he's not going to see it, you know what I mean? And act like it ain't easy to get access of, That's what we sit here and we paint the wrong picture to these kids. And we sit here and we shelter them too much. Then when they get out to the real world, they have all these freedoms. I talked about that too. It's like I had so much freedom in college that I tried to take advantage of all of it at once. And it just didn't work. Like, it was just like, it's amazing that I didn't end up with a bad addiction or something worse. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
what do you think the reason was for you that you didn't end up like that?
I think I have good roots. I have a father that loves me very much and raised me right. A lot of young men like myself don't have a father. So yeah, I mean, again, with that theme of fatherhood, I think I was well grounded. Even as I got older and I started to have a better relationship with my mom, it was like,
Isn't it funny? You remember you shared your first show with me and Jessica, and you talked about your life, and you talked about your mom and now your dad. Don't you find yourself deja vu here?
Yeah, that was, it's
almost
so
like
crazy.
the Matrix. Like, damn, is this, life repeating itself again?
It's a generational thing, I just, even with something as simple as living in Indiana, and I love where I'm from. Don't get me wrong, but that's about the only thing I love about it is the fact that I'm from here. You know what I mean? It's the fact that I can call this place home and it's people that know me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But other than that, it's a lot of stuff going on here that I just don't understand. We can sue the public school system for not letting ICE, raid the schools. But, God forbid that we have salt on the ground ready when we know it's going to snow. And we do this every year. You know what I mean? Real issues that happen in our communities don't get addressed.
Yeah.
But then we start barking up the wrong tree. And then I just sit here and it goes back to, like I was saying, it's like, it's a generational thing. It's like, I really was hoping I could break that generational curse. I had to give myself grace because
who says who is to say outside of yourself that you're not breaking it? I know it looks like deja vu, but to me, I think if you didn't put action behind your thought, then you would probably be allowing that to continue.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you're putting action behind that. You could have stayed in that situation,
right.
But you was like, okay, let me look at my child as a father. Right. Is this the best situation for me to try to help someone who may or may not want to help themselves? And at the end of the day, you got a child who's getting ready to go on 2 years old who basically has to depend on you. That child doesn't know jack shit on what's going on right now, but you got the insight as the father to say, this isn't the best decision. I'm going to have to do this and do this in order to look at the long term. So technically you are changing that narrative.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the changing the narrative part is the being like, I want to go out in the world and make a difference. And it's like, well, my son is right next to me every day. And there is some change in the world that I can make every single day. Mm-hmm. Aside from the obvious difference that we can't make in the community. And,
right.
It starts at home.
Right.
And so that's where if I could do anything for my son and his mother for that regard, it's just, be the example, that I can try to be. It's tough because right now I just don't agree with a lot of stuff that's going on up top. It's very hard to sit here and try to be Mr. Goody Two-Shoes all the time when they're doing people the way they're doing people from top to bottom.
What do you mean?
Whether it's snatching people out their cars and separating families with ICE, or it's taking food out of people's mouths for political leverage, or it's taking people off of Medicare or Medicaid because we think that our taxes shouldn't go to that, or it's these big corporations that think they can get away with anything and everything, or it's our army and warfare that keeps going across seas and fighting an unrighteous war. The list goes on and on, Dre. And that's what I think is so funny is like from a child, I always questioned things. People always came back with more questions. What is it that you really don't like about everything? You're just complaining. Now I'm not complaining anymore. I'm spitting straight facts day in and day out. I'm posting on my story. I'm speaking up. I want to annoy these people so much to the point where they're like, I got to block this dude because he's posting what's going on so much.
What are some of the feedbacks that you're getting from, because you are vocal?
I've had to block people, man. It's I get feedback from my family sometimes, and I think the ones that do support it have stopped hitting me up for real about it, because they know I'm not budging on none of this stuff. When you come to me and you try to tell me, oh, Kamala Harris, all she does is lie, you need to listen to Donald Trump because he tells the truth more. That is just a statement right there that tells me there's not a lot for us to talk about right now until we address that. You know what I mean? Or else we just having meaningless conversation.
Why is it so funny? It's funny you brought this up before we wrap up. It's funny you brought this up. People will listen to two people, and one can be sugarcoating, and one can be telling you straight up the way the game is being played.
Exactly.
Now, check out what I said. One person can tell you exactly how the game is being played. You watched the Dave Chappelle show when he said, your boy told us, I played the game. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So why do you think that people are having a difficult time? Is it people are scared to come out of the comfort zone, out of the box?
Dre, you got to think about what's going on right now, man. They moving so fast that we can't even keep up with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's impossible to sit here and how do I even form an opinion? You've did something 2 more times before I even figured out the third thing that you did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, or the first thing you did. So it's like, okay, so for example, right? I just posted something on my story about Trump, right? They sat him down and interviewed him about, I don't know if this was AI or not. This is the other thing too that's crazy. So you trying to figure out what's AI, what's real. They done had AI make stuff so real. So this fool done hopped. Everybody heard him say how he got so rich that now girls just let him grab them by the pee or whatever, right? And so, boom, I'm like, yo, that's crazy. But then come to find out in 2022, there's this video of him depicting him, allegedly, I would say, because I got to find out if it's AI or not. And I think it's real based off of what I could figure out. And he was basically justifying what he's saying. He's like, yeah, I mean, basically like pretty much. And this happened in 2022. So that's 3 years has gone by now that he's basically just stood on business and saying, I'm not sorry for saying that. And I'm right, basically. And I just don't understand.
So why do you think people accept it?
Because they don't even know he's said it. Like, I think we don't even know what we're accepting. When Bush was president and they told everybody that they were sending people out to go fight a war in Iraq because they had weapons of mass destruction, it was only what they called the radical left, right? That was saying, why are we doing this right now? Woo, 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 woo. And they were just saying, everybody else was just smiling and be like, well, the president knows best, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we didn't even know everything he had going on. He in close cahoots with the bin Ladens. He let the bin Ladens out the country the day of 9/11.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay.
Oh, you talking about you watched the Fahrenheit 9/11 or something like that?
Yes, sir. Everybody should watch that, in my opinion. Left, right, in between.
That was
just
really,
watch the content and make your own opinion. You know what I'm saying?
You can't dispute that Fahrenheit.
Man, bro, that's a turning point in my life when I watched that documentary. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, am I really seeing this? And you know it's got to be legit because they wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow it to even be released.
And so, and they didn't want it to release. They opened the documentary, or maybe it was at the end, I can't remember. But one of the politicians, I think it was Bill Clinton, or maybe it was George Bush, he asked them a question and he said, or he was like, when are you going to do this? And he said, I'll do it as soon as you get a real job. And I said, oh, we about to get into it. And sure enough, that was one of, if not the best documentaries I've ever watched. I laughed, I cried.
Yeah.
Like, I was sitting there.
I still remember it to this day.
Just, like, I'm shaking now thinking about it. It's crazy. So, my girlfriend showed me that on 9/11. And it was like, yo, like, so this wasn't even really, it was about 9/11, but there was so many other. Like,
so many underlying issues that people don't even know about.
That they don't know about. And so it's like, okay, so how many more times are we going to do this? Just let them tell us what they say is best. and we trust them because they've gone through the process of being elected and everything. Do we trust them to make the right decision? That's crazy to me. You know why?
Why?
Donald Trump lost the popular vote in 2016 to Hillary Clinton. More people voted for Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump, bro. Like, and it's like, yo, so like at the end of the day, so what are we doing? They call it democracy, but is it really? You know, at the end of the day, it's and again, they call it democracy, but we're sitting here arguing with Republicans.
You know what I want to call it before we wrap up? I'm gonna call it this.
We in a democracy.
I'm gonna call it like this. The conclusion of illusion theory.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you what you want because it's easier for me to give you the right to vote, knowing that I'm still gonna control the back end. I'm still the puppet master. But what this also does is cut down. It allows you to think that your vote matters. That's the thing that puts in the head. Conclusion of illusion. But in reality, you just brought up a vital point. Here's a woman that clearly outshined, but she didn't get there.
Right.
So the puppet master said, "Okay, you made your."
The same happened when George Bush was elected.
Thank you.
Al Gore beat him.
Thank you.
Everybody knows about the 2000 election.
Thank you. So this keeps down two things: it silence you because at the end of the day, you're going to be like, "Oh well," and that's going to be the end of it. But what it does is neutralizes violence and uncontrollable behavior.
Right. Yeah, because that's what everybody's scared of, right? Oh, well, don't go out and start looting and doing everything crazy because he's just going to declare martial law, and that's what they've been trying to do all this whole time. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine and dandy and everything, but people are doing crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And so, you know, at the end of the day, I just, man, I can't believe some of the stuff they try to get us to believe, you know, and you know, I think, it's like
you got a lot going on your plate. So before we wrap up, I like the fact that you are definitely going to the social media to address these concerns that you have, and I think everybody should have their concerns about how this world is and how people, not the world itself, but how people are being looked upon, how funding is being taken away from the people that need funding. And you being a father, these things are crucial because, you know, he's going on 2 years old. Everybody wants their kid to live to be safe, have a beautiful home, and to enjoy life.
And so that's the point I'm making here, Dre, is like, as I try to talk about these things and like be the change I wish to see, it's so funny how people end up pointing the finger back at you and be like, so what's your story then? Is everything perfect for you? And they start criticizing you for what you've gone through in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that's you being Tyreek Hill with 12 kids, Nick Cannon, or, you know, whatever people judge all these guys for doing, right? Having however many baby mamas or whatever the heck people be mad at people for. But the thing of it is, they taking everything away from us. It ain't just funding. They taking representation. They taking property. They taking everything. The city can just come tell you, hey, we need this part of your yard for people on Meridian could probably tell you about that. We need this part of your yard for the street so we can expand it. So say goodbye to the yard. And there's no contesting it either. Like, we coming for this land right here. And so, you know, if they can do that, then what's to say, like, you know.
Well, check this out. This is a history fact. Did you not know that Indianapolis was developed by broken treaties to the Native Americans, and that's how Indiana got their land to build this?
That's not surprising because that's most of this part of the United States. Actually, what they did was, you know, if you really want to go deep into the history, like go back to like the Louisiana Purchase.
Oh yeah,
they just said, oh, okay, this is our land. These people ain't never even been out there. They ain't never been to Washington or Seattle, you know, whatever, wherever they were buying this land. I can't remember exactly the plot of land that was bought in Louisiana Purchase, but Louisiana obviously was part of it. But that being said, they just said, yeah, here's this amount of money, and then this is ours now. So basically, it was just the highest bidder. It didn't have nothing to do with no treaty, and I've been here longer. It just was the highest bidder. If the Indians had something that the white people wanted more than money, they would have gotten that, and more than money and land, right? They would have gotten that instead of the money and land, right? But they wanted the money and the land, so they took the money they had and bought the land from whoever else was fighting. I think it was the Spanish coming from the South. You know what I mean? So, and the French. The Spanish, the French, and the English was all coming for this thing right here. And, you know, and they, you know, Trail of Tears. I know about the history, man. You know, they would kill, and Columbus was not a good man. He came to, you know, what he thought was the West. He called the West Indies because he thought he was in India, but he was really in the Caribbean islands, and he raped and pillaged villages and entire communities. And we sat here and made a song about it and gave him a whole day. And then, you know, to top that off, you know, now in those areas where they're heavily populated with the people of color that originally lived there, they taking representation away from him. Like I said, look what's happening in Texas. They saying it'll take 1 million black votes or 2 million black votes to equal 1 white vote, and similar numbers for Mexicans and Native Americans and what have you. And it's just crazy, man. It'll take, here's another fact that I just had random in my head. Another issue we have in this country. Actually, no, I saved that one for another time, man. It's just, it's too much stuff going on.
Check this out. I appreciate you taking time to come on this show. I'm going to ask you a question before we wrap up. Knowing your history, knowing your own family lineage, what's the next step for you with developing your son and developing yourself and developing your whole insight on what we just talked about?
So like I said, I think it starts at home. You know, like, what are we doing every day? Like, you know, because I was talking to my grandma about things and like me growing up, and she was like, the reason you called me, I was like, I called you first because like I needed to talk to you about some stuff today, you know. And she's like, the reason you called me is because I know you, Brian. And I was like, yeah, you know me even differently because you see me from the outside looking in, you know what I mean? And you saw some of the things that was going wrong in the household, right? And so just taking heed to what I've learned before growing up, right? That's all it really is. You know, I think we overcomplicate things so much, right? We want to just sit here and just like, there's got to be a master plan for everything, and I just got to stick to that plan. And, you know, we're going to make mistakes. Man, we don't even know what's to come tomorrow. So at the end of the day, learn from what has happened to us already. Yep. In 2000, Al Gore lost the election, or Al Gore lost the electoral college vote, but he won the popular vote. The same thing happened in 2016. It's like history repeating itself. My dad and mom were together. Myself and my son's mom are not together. Okay, history repeated itself. We can learn from this. You know, that's what it is. It's just as simple as that. Just learn from what happened, you know, and take heed to, you know, I think we don't respect our elders enough.
Wow. How can the viewers reach out to you and get more of your insight on life and change?
We're gonna fix the lettering, right? Like they'll be able to read the graphic.
Yeah. We got you covered this time.
All right, yeah. It's King Zig. Just replace the I's with X's on Instagram, or you can just look me up on YouTube and stuff. But you know, I do most of my social political stuff on Instagram. I know people hate that because like Instagram is just supposed to be a place where you like, you know, just post your family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I be digging my feet in the ground on social media for real, and I be talking about this stuff, and I be posting my music, and I be showing people what my life's like, and I really, you know, right now I'm trying to really get a lot of stuff in my studio because, you know, I'm making good music, and I just don't have the means to get it out there to people because I don't have enough equipment. Like, you know, my computer speakers are crackling. Like, I'm trying to get some studio monitors, you know what I'm saying? Like, like just small stuff to where it's like, okay, like I'm trying to get going like with my creativity because right now I'm getting so caught up and stuck talking on political issues, and that's not what I'm like. I'm doing that, you know. I just want to continue to be able to like keep that ball rolling. Like I said, like I'm getting myself to the point where like I'm saving up some money to where I'm getting like the things that I need. I was able to get a push controller so I could start producing again, because people don't know that I produce. You know what I'm saying? And so that's frustrating as a creative person, knowing you're good at something and not being able to do it. It's just like if you told Cooper Flagg, I was trying to think of somebody like relevant now. I keep talking about old people like old guys. But that's like telling Cooper Flagg, like, no, you don't have any basketball shoes, or like no jersey and no basketball. But like, good luck, like, you know what I mean? And it's like he was put on this earth to play basketball. When you look at him play, you like, dang, bro, you just did a spin move layup over Giannis. Like what are you doing, bro? Like, so then it's like, okay, so that's how I feel right now. I feel like a star basketball player without a basketball right now. Like, I feel like Michael without his secret stuff. And it's frustrating because it's like, okay, what do people need? You need millions of views? Do you need me to talk about social? Do you need to see that I have a brain and they're not making the wrong person? You're not putting the wrong person on again? You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, like, just tell me what you need from me. And if it's something that I can't do or I don't think it's the right thing to do, I ain't gonna sell my soul or nothing. I ain't gonna do it. But if it's something I can do, let's make it happen. Like, you know, and it just seems to me like when people want to make stuff happen, they make it happen. That's why I got my push controller and started producing again, because I was like, you know what? If I want to produce so bad, let me just go ahead and do it.
That sounds like a winner. Check this out. Man, he's got passion today. What a way to start the day, the series off with no other than King Zig. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, follow. Sometimes all it takes is one push of a button to make a difference in somebody's life or even their career, like Zig was just saying. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.